Toronto Blue Jays, meet your newest member of your team, and that man's name is George Springer. That's right. He signed a 6-year, $150 million deal with the Toronto Blue Jays, which is the largest contract in Blue Jays history. He was drafted by the Astros. I think it was in 2011. You can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on that. So basically, he spent his entire career with the Astros. Let me give you some stats from mostly from his postseason experience with the Astros. He's a three-time All-Star from 2017 to 2019. He's a 2017 World Series champion. In case if you guys don't know, that was the infamous sign stealing scandal for the Astros. And he was a World Series MVP in that series. He has hit 19 postseason home runs, which is tied for fourth of all time. I can't remember if that's all time in MLB or if that's franchise all time, but you can correct me again in the comments if I'm wrong. He has a 5.546 slugging percentage, which is sixth, 34 extra base hits, which is seventh, 43 runs scored, which is 14. That's all postseason stats. And this was reported by Jeff Passan of ESPN. So you know what? I'll start with you first, Mario. What do you think of this trade?
Well, first of all, congratulations to George Springer on signing with the Blue Jays. Obviously, it's a big contract, 6 years, $150 million. Yeah, the Blue Jays, I mean, for off season, they really hit it. I mean, George Springer was one of the top free agents this year in the off season. The Blue Jays saw him in the market and they took him. See, the one thing about the Blue Jays that I really like is that they have such a young core. They have such a young team to work with. Like they have Vladimir Guerrero, they have Biggio, they have Bichette, they have
Borges Murillo Jr.
right, Gurriel. So they have this young team. They have such this young team, but the one thing that they were really missing was the veteran status. And George Springer is that veteran I think they could really use. So it's kind of like every single franchise. You can have this young bursting team, but I do feel like you need at least that one veteran to keep everybody in check. You know what I'm saying? If that makes any sense. Like like the Miami Heat, like for instance, take the Miami Heat for example. They had such a young team this year, but Jimmy Butler was that veteran to keep them all in check, to keep everything under control. And I think that's what George Springer can do. George Springer could be like the Jimmy Butler to the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, I mean, do I think, now I'm going to be honest with you, do I think this team is, I don't want to say a downgrade, but do I think it was as good as the Astro teams he was part of? No, not even close, I don't think. But I think with time, I think that the time within the 6 years that George Springer will be there, I think this could turn into a World Series team. I truly believe that. Because by the 6 years, as the 6 years go by, that's a better way of explaining it. As the 6 years go by, Biggie O, Bo Bichette, Vlad Guerrero, Gurriel, all of them are gonna be veterans by that time. So by 6 years, or within those six, at least give it like 4 years, I expect all those guys to become true veterans of the game, and I expect them to go and I expect them to go long distance and go places such as World Series, such as AL pennants, all that type of stuff. That's what I expect in the next 4 years from the Blue Jays. But obviously, this is a great start with George Springer. George Springer is obviously might be one of the most clutch postseason hitters of all time. And I know that's saying a lot, but I think he's up there.
Right. No, I agree with what you're saying. And yeah, going back to the whole thing with having a very young squad, this team reminded me of the Padres last year. They in my opinion, they were one and the same. The Padres had a very, very young squad and they had that one veteran, but it just wasn't enough to get the job done. And it was the same thing it's the same thing here with the Toronto Blue Jays. They're getting that one veteran that they need. And I think this is gonna the Blue Jays is gonna be the same situation with the Padres, how they're building up to get talent and to be this juggernaut. I think that's what's gonna happen here with the Blue Jays. And like you said, George Springer is not a bad. That's a very great start right there. Um, they got a booming offense from what I can see as of right now. Vlad Jr., Bo Bichette, Kevin Biggio, Lourdes Gurriel, and now George Springer is a part of that offense and defense. My one problem with the Blue Jays, however, is pitching. That's the one thing I'm a little concerned about. The only pitcher that I'm not so concerned about is Hyun-Jin Ryu because he came from the Dodgers last season, which I think was a good trade by the Blue Jays. So he's a veteran pitcher in the starting rotation. But other than that, really, not a lot of starting pitchers, and even the bullpen in that matter, doesn't really doesn't really catch my eye all that much for say teams like the Dodgers and the Mets, even though they're not really a playoff team last year, their rotation was pretty eye catching. The Nationals rotation was eye catching a couple years, but so it's not like that eye catching pitching rotation. So I think that's something the Blue Jays need
But
to
that's when
work on in the off season as well.
but that's when that comparison to the Padres comes in, is because
Exactly my point.
same thing
Yeah,
happened with the Padres in 2 years. They focused on hitting last year. Now they're focused on the pitching side. So that's why I say give it like 4 years, because in 4 years, by the time Biggio, Bobichet, Guerrero, Gurriel, by the time all those young guys become veterans, I feel like the Blue Jays will build a complete team. Whether that's from the farm system or whether that's from offseason, I do believe they will build a team. And honestly, you also got to remember Trevor Bauer's still out there as well.
that's what I was just about to get
So
to. They can still get him. I mean, but you also got to remember there are other teams out there trying to get him too. Angels,
right.
Red Sox, the Mets are on that conversation. I think the Rangers are too. I could be wrong. There are a lot of teams out there scouting for Trevor Bauer, so they got to make sure, and he's gonna want that cash too. So you got to make sure you're ready to give him if that's what you want. Especially Trevor Bauer, he just came off a Cy Young year. You got if you want Trevor Bauer, and I know that's why a lot of teams are struggling to get him because he's gonna want that big payday. You got to make sure you're the first in line for that. But I like I said, I think this is exactly what the Padres are doing, and I absolutely agree with you. Like this year is like focusing on offense, the next year is going to be focusing on pitching. I absolutely agree. I think that's what's going on here. Um, but hey, man, their methods seem to be working so far, and I hope it works out for them. In the regular season, even though they're a division rival of ours, I still don't want them to fail. So with that said, congratulations to George Springer, and congratulations to the Toronto Blue Jays. And I'm excited to see how this goes.